So, at the end of the day, guys, I want people to think of me as just Falcon first and the guy in charge a distant second. I'm not your boss. I don't want to pretend to be your boss. Leadership and management are different things. I'm just a guy that's here to crash around in big stompy robots with my buddies and blow shit up, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're all here. So, if we can do that, and if at the same time I can help the unit grow and develop and keep things positive, then I think I'm doing my job as a leader. That's my position in this community.
Let's talk a little bit about your gameplay style in MechWarrior Online. I know you're a little bit like with me. You prefer the larger machines, but you also probably play a little bit outside the box, don't you?
Yeah, and as far as gameplay, I guess I'll answer it in two ways, right? First as a player, and then some observations around calling drops and my experience in that. I mean, I think pretty much everyone that's ever run with me knows, yeah, I'm a big fan of the heavies and the assaults, right? The big boys. I run the other classes too, but for me, the big draw has always been the heavy hitters with lots of direct fire. Um, I really prefer the mid-range game for myself, like 300 to 600 meters. That's kind of the sweet spot for most of my builds, right? So PPCs, large lasers, autocannons, especially big autocannons. But I'll also close to brawling range a lot in order to keep the pressure on. So as far as how I approach the game as a pilot, I tend to be a pretty aggressive player, which goes with the mid-range to brawling range thing. Um, it gets me killed a lot more than what you might see with a
No, I
sniper
feel
type
you.
of player. But I think that playing aggressively is usually what wins matches for your team in this game, right? If you can get in there and do three times as much damage to the team as they do to you, that's a good thing, right? That's kind of my philosophy. So you can either take the game to the other guy or stand back and let him take his game to you, right?
Hmm.
Which would you prefer? So I prefer to play it kind of like a cat, right? Wait for the right moment to pounce. But when
And
you do
then get him.
pounce, yeah, keep on it. Pulling it off without going just full Leroy Jenkins and getting mowed down because you did something stupid, right? There's
Absolutely.
a really fine line between being bold and just being a dumbass. And, I cross that line more than I care to admit.
All
But
right.
as far as, being bold, I would say the same thing goes for calling drops, right? Particularly 12 mans. And this is just my perspective, but I'm not a big fan of the pure defensive game, right? If as a commander, if you can develop that instinct for when to push and get the other guy back on his heels and keep him there, that's a good thing for you to have in your mental toolbox as a commander, right? Watch for that moment, know when to go. The other thing is be decisive in your calls, right? Make the calls and let things play out how they will. Um, don't let the shitty calls and the losses get to you, right? I mean, the bad calls are going to happen. Just own them, take responsibility, and move on.
Absolutely.
So, just as far as actual calls, right? One thing I would say with leading drops is, try not to overthink things too much in making calls because the guys on your team can tell when you're overthinking it, right? If you sound like you're not sure of what to do, then they'll hesitate when you do make the call. Like, did you really mean that or what? So, if you can just try to give a clear and concise order, people will usually follow it, which is what you want, even if it turns out to be the wrong call, right? So, get familiar with the maps, understand what other teams do, where they go, and practice. It takes a lot of practice calling drops to get comfortable with it,
Hmm.
let alone getting good at it. And like we were talking about, don't worry about making mistakes while you're learning. No one's going to blame you, and if they do, then that's their problem, right? At the end of the day, we want to have a lot of depth, and I encourage anyone who takes part in 12-man drops to have a go at calling those drops, right? You need to understand how the commander sees it, not just how it looks from the ground. So that's my approach to gameplay.
All right. Well, this a little bit about yourself as a gamer. Like, MechWarrior Online is probably not the only game you play.
No, I mean I've been a gamer all my life, really. I mean, role-playing games, tabletop war games, obviously, computer games. Um, to be honest, the last year, it's just about the only thing I've played,
Me too.
MechWarrior. Uh, but I
Pepper's
love
tired of
adventure
looking at it.
games. Yeah, I love classic old school adventure games, computer RPGs, uh, tactics, strategy. just about any sort of game, really. I'd say the only other game I've really been playing this last year is Rocksmith, which is totally different, right? That's something else I enjoy is
Hmm.
playing music. So, any of you guys that play guitar or bass, if you haven't checked out Rocksmith, go check it out.
All right, what are you looking forward to upcoming in MechWarrior Online?
I'm really looking forward to the planetary conquest part of community warfare. Um, Having the persistent world with units able to really make their mark on things, right? Um, it's a ways off, right? We know it's going to be sometime in the fall, if they stick to schedule. But I'm cautiously optimistic that they'll get it right. It'd be pretty easy to do a lackluster job with it. So hopefully they do build something that's going to get really competitive, right, and keep people's interest for a few years.
Hmm.
Um, I think if you look at the MMOs that people play for years on end, right, EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Eve, they get the rating thing right and they get the community thing right, and that's what keeps people coming back for more, right? If it's just an expanded sort of hugging game, then it's not going to go anywhere. So, hopefully PGI will give us something interesting with regard to how that works, and then keep adding content to it, right? New maps, new modes, competitions and special events, all that good stuff.
All right. Kind of one of my final questions of the evening. Merrick Civil War. We are through round 5 now, if I remember correctly.
Yep,
And we are 1 loss, 4 wins, correct?
that's right. Yeah, so I mean, the whole Merrick Civil War thing, it's great stuff. This is, you mentioned this is the first competitive league type stuff that Blackthorns have done in a long, long time, like going back to closed beta. And I think it's awesome that we've had a good start and a lot of guys interested in taking part, right? So the player run leagues like this and Proxys and Run Hot or Die, they're great things as far as keeping people's interest while we wait for the official in-game version of Community Warfare. The one thing with only one match per week, we've only been able to get 12 to 15 guys actually playing in these Merrick Civil War drops in any given week, which kind of sucks because it's good that we're able to consistently field a team, but there just aren't enough spots to get everyone in every week, right? We get 17 guys that show up. Well, 5 guys are going to ride the pine that week. So I think Proxys, which is the other league we're about to enter into, that'll actually give us the ability to get more of our guys in. Um,
Good.
Reason being, we're not limited to one drop, per week. We can actually have separate drop ships. If we wanted to do something like, the Hearthguards are going to go attack this planet and the Widows are going to attack this planet, we can do that in Proxys. So if there's enough interest, we can have 1, 2, 3 teams going at once. So we'll see how it goes. But the Merrick Civil War thing's been encouraging. We're not just doormats, right? I think we kind of had
No,
a
we've definitely made our mark, man. People did not expect us to go as far as we've gone so far.
right. And to be fair, I mean the other units we're going up against are lesser known units like us, right? They're probably
Hmm.
similar size, but we have better pilots. We're better organized. I think the fact that we're better organized and better practiced is what's making the
So I was
difference.
getting ready to say that the practice. You guys practice what every day right before your drop. Everyone shows up for practice, and then everyone has to show up an hour before that drop that next day. I mean, we like to lay back and have fun, but when it comes to our competitive drops, we get damned out serious. We're ready to go kick some ass.
Yeah, and we're seeing the benefits, right? We're shaking
Absolutely.
out at
Hell
the
yeah.
top of the heap of those bottom tier units. So it won't be long. We'll be facing off against some pretty good guys.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Falk, for taking the time to get this interview, and I want to thank everybody else for taking the time to watch this video. And if you're interested in joining Blackthorns, please visit us at www.blackthorns.com. Would you like to say anything closing, sir?
Well, thanks, Gus. It's an honor to be your first interview here in the series.
Hey, hey.
And, thanks to everyone in Blackthorns just for being a part of the community. You guys will make it fun to play here. So let's keep rolling and see what we can do with this thing.
Blackthorns. Whoop. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
I'm a rock and roll outlaw. Hee-haw, hee-haw.